Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Tees. With our inspirational tees, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Tees. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Tees at dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. Hey guys, this is Earnest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, and I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $EJames, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, and I believe that everyone can live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. That's deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Once again, if you haven't already, please subscribe, listen, like, subscribe, and share to our YouTube channel. We're definitely trying to get up there, get our numbers up on YouTube, and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the actual episodes. Also to our Facebook page, because on our Facebook page, you will have access, or we'll definitely always share links where you can go straight over to YouTube to watch the videos. But on the Facebook page, we're able to share more information with you for things that we have coming up, as far as workshops and ebooks and, a whole host of other things that we're working on. If you go, follow us on the not YouTube, but follow us on the Facebook page, you'll be able to stay in contact with us. And also our Spotify page, on Spotify, the podcast on Spotify, so that you can listen to the podcast while you're on the move. All right. So you guys definitely, if you haven't already, subscribe, listen, like, subscribe, and share. Listen also to the end. I'm going to tell you guys how you can win $100 from the podcast, and it don't cost you anything. But you got to listen to the end in order to get that information. All right. So let's jump right into it today. Just like any other day, we are blessed with a guest, Miss Symone. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, EJ?
I am good. And I called you Symone, and you told me to call you Symone.
It's okay. Symone is my middle name, actually. So
okay.
That works too.
But I'm good. First of all, let me say thank you for being here. You could be doing anything else, but you took out your time to be here with me and my listeners, and I definitely appreciate it, and I believe that they do too. So let's jump right in it. First of all, Sydnye, tell us who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, I'm Sydnye Symone, and I'm an advocate for positive body image. I am also an HR professional, but as well as that, I'm a 3-year amputee.
All right. So, Sydnye, the way I came across your book, because you wrote a book, and I came across your book, and um, I believe it was your aunt who had posted on Facebook. We're in the same speakers group, and she posted it, and I seen it, and I clicked on it, and I was really impressed by it, just by the story within itself, and definitely your resilience, because to go through something, as far as life changing as becoming an amputee, and then to be healed from it to the point that you can write a book about it. I know that's an amazing journey. So let's start from the beginning. Because you said 3 years, so you obviously wasn't born, as an amputee. So tell us a little bit about your story, or who you were, who was Sydnye uh, before the amputee, and then after, or let's say then goes into that, and let's talk about that journey to becoming who you are now.
Yes, definitely. So I was like the normal woman in her young 20s, starting my career, trying to build a rapport. And I just all of a sudden got terribly sick. I had been on so many like vacations with friends and, just out and about around Chicago because that's when I lived in the Chicagoland area. And this was a devastating kind of thing. I noticed first that I was having a lot of swelling in my legs. And one day I went to work and my boss was like, "You have the legs of a pregnant lady. That's something's not right." So she immediately sent me to urgent care to get that checked on. And from there, the doctor asked me to go to the hospital because she knew that the appropriate equipment wouldn't be at urgent care. It was very severe. She couldn't pinpoint or diagnose what the issue was. So she wanted me to get extra help, but she knew the level of severity. So it was kind of definitely a shock. It rattled me for sure, going from just like a normal human being living my daily life and barely getting a cold to
Mm,
such an illness, and finding out more about that and how I have been affected.
mm. So again, you mentioned about going from what would be considered a everyday woman going on their everyday life to now you get this news. So I'm sure that there was some depression that probably came along with that, or some you know finding yourself at a low point, during that process. And then how long was the process of finding out that you were sick to even getting to the point where you had to become an amputee? Like, how long was that, and what was that journey like?
Yeah, so that timeline is interesting. I found out the whole thing that caused my amputation is a kidney disease that I have, and it's very chronic and very rare. And I found out about it when I was 24, and I'm now 29. And so, honestly, I didn't take it very seriously. When I was told that, it was something going on with my kidneys, I thought it was just something you took medicine for, and then it kind of
Mhm.
like works itself out. So, by 24, I was in and out of the hospital so much, and it just progressively got worse. It would be okay for a moment, and then something else would happen. So the amputation was 3 years ago. So I found out I was sick at 24, and then the amputation happened at 26. So in between those 2 years, things progressively got worse.
And yeah, and like I said, so I'm imagining that there was some depression and things that went on in that time period, to kind of that would probably get you to a low point. So as you begin to work your way, out of that, how big was your family and the people in your life to help pull you out of that place, and what were some of the things that you looked forward to that kind of helped you come from this surprising news and
Mhm.
devastating news that definitely changed your life to, okay, now even accepting what had happened.
Yeah, EJ, there definitely was some depressive points where I just wasn't ready to accept what was going on, and just extreme sadness. So I would try to avoid the whole subject. But my family was and is paramount in my recovery process. So I feel like when people talk about recovery, they always think that it's just physical, but it's a
Mhm.
mental and emotional thing as well. And so I needed my family there to just remind me of who I was before this amputation, encouraged me when I was at my low points. And they've been so supportive when it's come to me writing my book, me sharing it with people, because that requires you to be vulnerable. And I wasn't quite sure I was ready for that either, but they've been by my side through the entire thing. And really close friends of mine as well, have been there for me.
Yeah, and I know, like I know I mentioned to you before we started recording that I was able to read some of the beginning of the book, and you spoke in the book about the part that your grandmother played and kind of help you out. So what is your relationship like with your grandmother, and how instrumental was that? You know, was her in you finding that strength to press forward?
Um, Me and my grandmother are very close. That's like a second mom to me. I was raised with her, so we are very tight, and I tell her anything. And in the book, I talk about just being in her home and how comfortable I typically am and relaxed. And but this day was different. It was a completely different feel and vibe, um, because of the sadness of sharing what was going on with me to her. It was very heavy, and she of course kept encouraging me to keep going through all of it, but it was very sad to explain to her what was going on, and for her to know that she couldn't help me through this situation no matter how much she wanted to. You could tell she wanted to take the pain from me, but there's just absolutely no way. So it was hard for both of us.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and I talk a lot about having the people in your life to pull you out of or help to pull you out of when you're at your lowest points.
Yes.
And sometimes even if that person is not there physically to pull you out, sometimes that person can be there just emotionally and mentally thinking about them. Sometimes it's enough to get you started.
Yes.
Even on a journey. So I talk a lot about um, my depression that I went through, a couple years ago with, at that time I was going through a divorce and my mom passed away. My mother-in-law at the time passed away, who I was really close to. And then, a lot of different things happened. And I found myself in this deep depression where I was even contemplating suicide, and the one thing or one person that was the catalyst of even beginning for me to start, changing my mind about it and giving me a reason to live was my daughter.
Mm.
At that time, my daughter probably was maybe 6 or 7, and so I had to switch my focus off me and put it on her, and the question what I asked myself was, if I'm not here, what's going to happen to her?
Yes.
And so I was able to, at least start, getting myself in the right place to start pulling out of it. And also I had some great family and friends that was able to, pull me out of that also. Because like you said, it started with me though, that I had to change my mind. And like you said, recovery from anything, whether it's a physical tragedy or physical change, or it could be emotional change, whatever it is, some kind of loss in your life that would put you in depressive state or any kind of space where you're outside of yourself. It
Hmm.
has to start with you first. You have to want to change. You have to want to get better. You have to want to move forward. And so
Absolutely.
that was kind of my thing. Once I was able to change my mindset and again take the focus off me and focus it on my daughter, that was enough to get me started. And then, my friends and loved ones definitely, put around me to help pull me out of that
Yeah, it helped
place.
you along the way for sure.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
And that's
So,
why I wrote this book as well, because I wanted it to be relatable for anybody going through a traumatic experience. To let them know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that there is hope and you can do it. It might take a lot. It might be very challenging. I remember when I first found out I was going to lose my leg, my mom was there with me, and she told me something that I'll never forget. The doctor had just came in and said, like, yeah, we're gonna have to amputate in the next couple days because this could race to your heart or your lungs, and that can kill you instantly. So this has to happen. And we cried, my mom and I, afterwards to hear the news because we didn't even think that that was a real possibility.
mhm,
Um, and she told me that yes, we're gonna cry a lot more days. This is gonna be tough, but we're gonna get through it together. We're going to get through it. And I believed her. And so that's the mindset I've been taking with everything since. So,
yeah,
yeah.
and that's what's so inspiring about one of the things that I love about even doing this podcast, which having the people, different people on that I'm able to have on and have these conversations with, is talking about that transition, that one moment that changes everything, that
Yes.
one moment where it kind of bridges from who you are or where you are, or should I say who you were and where you were, until becoming who you are now and where you are now. And there's an essential part that God uses different people, just to set that little spark. It's not always something big. It can be simple as, like you said, just those little words of
Mm.
encouragement that is enough to catapult you into another space where start thinking again, like you said, there is hope, there is something behind this, there is something else that's going on, and where I have something to look forward to.
Yes.
And again, and I know I told you, I think your story is so strong and so different, and I think the space, to hear that story is monumental. I know you. I had asked you before we started talking, before we started recording, about where you were a speaker, and I definitely think that your story is worth hearing. I mean, of course, I do. We hear, right? But I think even beyond this platform, I think there is a space for you, and there are some people that you'll be able to reach that I may not even be able to reach because I don't have that same story. I have a story, but I don't have your story.
Right.
And each of us, our stories are unique, our experiences are unique, and God allows us to go through these things so that we can reach certain people, at the right time in their lives. So I really think your story is just amazing. Um, and one of the things that if I remember correctly, when I was reading the part of the book that I did read, was also not just getting mentally better, but then you talked a little bit about self-care and
Yes.
how important that is. So tell me a little bit about your mindset with that, and maybe was that a concept that you always had, or did it something you gained after, or did you already have it and then it just kind of monumented after the fact?
I always kind of had it. I always valued self care and I thought that was important, but I think what it looked like changed to me after this. It was something that I tried to put at the forefront of my mind because I didn't want the focus to be on, limb loss. I wanted it to be on me feeling good again. And then that leads to you wanting to do more things and your mental state. And so I would say that it was always kind of there, but it completely grew and escalated when I lost my leg. Self care is just so important to me. And that might just mean like turning off my phone, lighting a candle, sitting in a dimly lit space just to get my mind back in order. And I think really realize the important things in life. Sometimes you have to slow down and
Hmm.
take a break and stop and realize that other things are more important, like my health is more important. I had this feeling of guiltiness when this happened to me, when I started getting sick, like not being able to go to work or not being able to hang out with friends as much because I was working on my health. But if I'm not healthy, then how am I supposed to enjoy my life? I can't.
Right.
Yeah, so I had to definitely reframe things and think of it in a different light.
Yeah, yeah, and I so everybody that I have on, I definitely go to their social media pages and kind of look at what they're doing and what they represent and stuff. And I see some pictures of you doing some things. I see you on a horse. I was like, oh, go, girl. And I was just
Yeah.
excited, to see you not only out, you know what I mean, but out and about and probably doing some things that people who are physically whole are afraid to do or may even want to do and haven't even pressed that press forward to do something. So have this probably on a different note, has this opened you up to make you more courageous and make you more like, what, let me press forward, let me go and do some of these things. People always say they have a bucket list. I don't really like the concept of the bucket list because it's like waiting to the end of life. Like, I don't have a bucket list, I just have a list,
Right.
and I'm working on it right now.
Mhm.
So did this actually have a transformation moment to you that made you feel like, what, I'm gonna live it up, from here on out?
Yes, absolutely. I think being an amputee can cause you to be very fearful, fearful of falling, fearful of what people say, just scared in general of not living the same life that you did before. So
Mhm.
I take the approach where I want to push the envelope, and I don't like hearing that I can't do something. So things that
Mhm.
I feel like I might not be able to do, I try to figure out a way to do it. And I've had great friends that have supported me along with that. Like, girl, we're gonna figure it out, because I have still been fearful. Because with the horseback riding, I was very afraid. I was like, how am I gonna get up on this thing? What if my leg falls off while I'm riding it? Your mind just goes to like the
Mhm.
worst possible scenarios. But yes, this has
Right.
definitely caused me to be more courageous and try new things that I wouldn't before. And I'm at the point where, at the beginning, I used to really care what people think or thought. And if they would see me, like I would kind of just like, avoid eye contact and just try to be in like a smaller space and not a lot of people or
Mhm.
crowds, because I was just afraid. I was afraid what they might think of me. But I've gotten over that hump. I think that was definitely a challenge. But
Mhm.
at this point, I like wave at people. If they're staring for a long time, I'm like, hey,
Right.
did you see it? Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it does not bother me. My cousin actually said I should get some T-shirts that say "You have questions," and then on the back it says "I have answers," because people do. They are curious. They don't see this every day. And I always tell my mom too that I'm a lot to look at. I'm like, I'm a black girl, I'm thick, and I'm missing a leg, so that's a lot to look at right there. So
Right. Right.
caring is, it may be for several reasons. So I can't take it personally because I don't think it's meant to be offensive. I think people are
Right.
just curious by nature. So yeah.
Yeah, and then hey, you're an author now, so hey, you that's the door open. Like, I got a book. It tell you the whole story.
Exactly.
What I mean, we ain't got time to talk right now, but you know what? If you go to Amazon, you can get
Right.
the whole story.
That link handy.
Yeah, yeah. Use that as a marketing as a marketing technique.
Yeah,
So
myself.
that'll
I'm the
that'll work.
marketing tool. Yep. Just me.
Definitely, definitely. That is amazing. So I want to talk another thing because we're talking about the book. So one of the things I want to talk about before we get into that whole process of writing the book, which I know a little bit about because I did start. I didn't finish my book yet, but I did start it. But even before that, go back a little bit. You mentioned about the vulnerability, to be at a place that you're able to openly tell your story. So, what was that transition like from going to, like you said, trying to be in small spaces and not want to make eye contact to being able to say, you know what, I'm going to open up myself. I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to stand in my truth, and I'm going to let everybody see it. You know what I mean? So what was that transition like, for you emotionally, first of all, but then, even to go into the story when you start writing the book, how deep did you have to go in to pull out, those things that happened and really tell your story?
Um, I would say that transition took me about a year to really stop caring what people thought. Everything was just so new. I was still like kind of tripping over my own feet and learning how to really like walk in crowds again. So it took a while for me to get to the point where I'm like, okay, it's fine. Go back out there in the world. You cannot stay at home all day. I was really encouraged by some people that I found on Instagram that are also amputees. It was one specifically. Her name is Mama Cats. She recently passed, but I
Okay.
don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she's a model and an amputee, and she had just got um, like a Target ad, and that was just so encouraging to me just to see another Black woman that was young and an amputee being a Target ad and modeling. So things like that encouraged me too, because I'm like, if she can do it, then I can be out here
Right,
doing
right.
it. I might not model necessarily, but I could just be out here and seeing people's responses too. I've gotten way more positive responses to me than negative. So people are curious, but once we get past the questions, they're like, "Man, I'm so glad to see you out here." So that response helped with that transition as well, for sure. But writing the book was interesting too because I write typically when I'm going through something like a journaling process. And
Hmm.
so it started off as a couple stories, but then it kept growing and growing. So when it got to the point where it's like 16 different stories and experiences that I had had and that I wrote down in detail at the time of the situation, I was like, man, maybe this should be a book because this is like
Hmm.
some interesting stuff that people don't see, like the behind the scenes of a
Right.
young amputee. People associate amputation typically with, like you said, war vets and older people. They don't really associate it with young Black women. Like
Right.
that doesn't really happen very often. That's not something you see. That's not something that's depicted in movies or TV shows. So I wanted people to get like a real raw experience of what I go through every day. The little stuff, the funny stuff, all of it. All of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to really diving into the whole story. Like I said, I was able to read the little part that comes when you click the link,
Right.
in your link. I was able to read that much of it, and I was just like, okay, I got to get the book, because the rest of the story I definitely want to hear.
Hmm.
Um, so one of the things that you mentioned about is, as you were, or should I say, as you are, moving forward and pressing forward. There were some things that I think you described as your prescription list, which is
Hmm.
some of the things that you use to, some of the tools and things that you use to help get you, to cope with what you were going through and kind of help you move forward. So, if you don't mind, give us some of those things, that, whoever that may be going through something right now, but they may be able to, think of those prescription tools that you use and that help you get through it, and those same things may be able to help them, press through whatever that is that they're going through.
Yeah, for sure. One of them is definitely realizing that you can't prepare for every battle, or you can't predict every battle, rather. So you can't predict everything that's going to happen. One day I had been taking some medication that was helping me with swelling. And so it was making, my body smaller. And so my prosthetic limb wasn't fitting the correct way. So I was out and it
Mm.
was like slipping off. And I just didn't expect that to happen. Right. So I
Right.
can't predict that. But you can always prepare for things. So I definitely had my prosthetics doctor on speed dial to ask him like what's the best way to handle the situation, like if it happens again, and he gave me some suggestions. But that's definitely one of my prescriptions with any area of your life. No, you're not going to be able to predict, when it's going to rain sometimes or when it's going to be a challenge that you face. But you can try to prepare for these things, and make sure you prepare yourself mentally for challenges. And how are you going to pull yourself out of those states? Who are you going to talk to? And that leads me to say another one is having a support system. It is important to find at least that one person that you can trust, even if they're just there to listen, just knowing that you feel comfortable in their presence. You need that type of person around you or near you or to call, because you can't handle it all on your own. We all have this idea sometimes that we have to be strong and figure it all out by ourselves. And that's not the case. Those people are your friends for a reason, or your family members, or whatever the case. So I would say pick at least one person that can support you through a hard time.
Definitely, definitely, and I think that support system is so strong, and with the social media space, our support system can pretty much be endless. Like you said, you met a lot of people on Instagram that was
Yes.
able to support you that way,
Yes.
and even with me with the podcast, this whole podcasting space, I'm really still new to the space. I haven't even been doing it a year yet, so I'm still
Wow.
new to the space. But it was on social media that I was able to connect with a lot of people, even to even get started, and so those spaces where you have those support groups is definitely great when you have that, and definitely a help. I remember, as I spoke earlier about when I was going through my depression after my mom passed and my mother-in-law passed away, I joined the bereavement group. And when I was in that bereavement group, they helped me get through some things. And I liked it so much that I became a volunteer, and I started volunteering. Then I started helping them run the program. And I even after that started my own non-for-profit
Wow.
organization, which started doing it. And now I'm actually in the works of making it into a online workshop where I can do it online and reach more people and help more people even
That's
with that.
amazing.
So, yeah, thank you. But it's those support groups and those supportive people that you have in your life that helps you to become who you are. And I always speak about this one thing that God gave me, this understanding that whenever we're going through something, either we have a choice to make. Either we're going to be a victim of our circumstance or a victor of our circumstance. And those of us who come out on the other side victorious, it then becomes our job to go back and get the victims and to help them, to the other side. And that's what I think that you are doing even now. You've been through some things, and now you've written this book, and the same way you are looking to other people, that there's going to be people that's looking to you now, because I
Yes.
was even inspired, like I said, when I came across the book and was just like, wow, the story. And that was even before I even knew the story, just by the little part that I could see just from the front of the book,
Yeah.
and the name of the book, and I was just automatically intrigued, before I even went any further,
That's great to know.
and so,
I'm
yeah,
glad.
yeah, and I think the cover was nice. I think it was the whole messaging and the whole presentation of the book was nice. It got my attention, and I was like, I want to read the story. I want to hear the story, and so that's why we're here now to give you a chance to hear the story, to hear your story.
That's
Um,
definitely what I wanted to do, is to help someone else in the same predicament, going through a traumatic time in their life, just to be relatable. That's absolutely how I wanted people to feel.
yeah, and I think you're doing it. I think you're doing it. Um, so, what else did I have to talk about? Um, I think that was pretty much covered all my questions that I wanted to ask you. So here's a question: What's
Mhm.
next? What's next for Sydney? So you've written a book. You moved out of Chicago, got away from the
Yes.
cold.
Do not miss it. I'm
And so,
sorry. I don't miss the cold.
so what's next for you? What can we look forward to seeing the next thing for Sydney?
I think speaking. I'm trying to figure out what platforms I want to speak at. If it's going to be like women's empowerment. Why Renee, my aunt, actually is having a tour right now. I don't know if you saw that, but she's
Yes,
going
I
from state
did.
to state, and she will be in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the latter part of the year. And so I plan on being there. I don't know if I'm going to speak. I might just have a table, and so when people come by, they can buy my book and just hear my story or share their story with me, whatever the case. So just getting out there to different groups and networking, and hopefully a new book. Hopefully a new book. This one just came out, but my writing hand has been working some more. And my life is continuing, and there's still
Right,
different
right.
challenges that I face and new stories. I have a story for everything. I am I am full of stories, and I think will be interesting to people. So I think I might do a part two as well.
Okay,
So we'll see how
okay,
it
good.
goes.
Good, good, good. So, Sydney, thank you again, once again, for being on, for sharing your voice and your story with us. I'm gonna let you have the last word. I'm gonna let you tell us a little bit where we can find the book and your social media handles, and leave us with a word of advice. So I'll give you a second to think about that, real
I already
quick. And
got
I'm
one.
gonna let
I
you
already
have.
got
Okay,
one
okay,
ready.
okay.
Hey, this
Well,
wasn't
let
even
me.
rehearsed, y'all. This is like
So let me
it's something he
talk
just
to
posed. I promise.
let me talk to the listeners real quick, because I told them I was going to tell them how to win $100. So let me tell them. So everybody that's still listening, I'm glad you stayed to the end. Hopefully this wasn't the only reason you stayed to the end, because trying to figure out how you can win some money. If we was
But
having a
that
great
didn't hurt.
conversation, right, right. But since you're here, again, so how can you win $100 from the podcast? It's very simple. Become part of our super subscriber. Become a super subscriber. What is a super subscriber? A super subscriber is a person who has subscribed to our YouTube page, our Facebook page, and our podcast on Spotify. So to join the $100 super subscriber contest, the first thing you need to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel. Then subscribe to our Facebook page and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. And after you've done those three things, text the word win to 866 326 0730. Again, text the word win to 866 326 0730, and you will qualify to win $100. Now, the contest is ongoing, right? And it's random. So it never stops and it's random. So there's no particular day or time when I may pull it out of a hat. There's no telling how soon or how many times I might do it. I can do it today. I can do it tomorrow. I can do it today and tomorrow if I wanted to. Contest, how I want to do it. So, but in order for you to win, you got to subscribe, right? So obviously you're here, you're listening, you're watching, you like the podcast. We have great people on. So you do here anyway. Hey, go ahead, subscribe, listen, share, become a super subscriber so you can win $100 of my money. Okay. That's hard. That's hard money. I might work hard for my money. And I'm just gonna give it to you, right? Okay. So anyway, Sydney, I'll
Yes.
let you have the last word. Again, thank you so very much for being on. Thank you for sharing your time with us and your story and your inspiration. Definitely inspired by you. Definitely going to get my copy of the book and maybe have you back on again when you write part two.
Yeah. That would be
So
great.
the floor is yours. You can have the last word.
I was just going to say another one of my prescriptions and what I think is a golden nugget is when you're going through a traumatic experience, acknowledging, that issue that you have a problem and then figuring out three solutions to that issue. So that's something that I thought about on a monthly basis at least, like, where are my issues right now and how can I take baby steps to getting over these challenges? So that's my last token of advice.
Okay.
You cannot be in denial. You have to acknowledge what the issue is and try to move forward from there. And my social media is Sydnye.Symone. So that's SYDNYE.SYMONE. And that is on Instagram. It's Sydnye Symone on Facebook. And you can find my book on Kindle as well as on Amazon. And it's called Life Over Limb. So it's on both of those right now.
All right. So again, Sydnye, thank you so very much for being on. To my listeners, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, and I'm on a mission to help people to deal, to heal, and to fulfill. Let's deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. So until next time, guys, I will see you next week. Be blessed. Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.